Good evening and thank you. It's a great pleasure to be with you, bankers, investors, and those influencing the investments. And you heard Mr. Bagla, making and sharing with you a remarkable story of transformation that is taking place in India. So I should also start with a small story. You know, he talked about the opportunities. Let me just talk about what I am trying to do. Let's say if I tell you that I am buying 5 hectares of land in Moon, I expect 3 kinds of responses. Somebody will say, tell me how much it costs, let me also join you. Somebody will say, show me your design for the rockets, then I will think about joining. And third person will say that you build up a colony there, I'll buy a flat. So I'm going to talk about the moonshot that we are attempting. So you as investors or people who invest, influence invest, decide whether you want to be a part of that 5 hectares that I'm buying or pay 100 times more for the flat once a colony is built. So I'm going to tell what is my vision for this colony from this moonshot and what we are attempting in India in this direction of completely transforming commerce. So let me just put the context for the big picture context, and I'm sure that some of you have gray hair here to remember how internet started with TCP/IP enabling cross-border transactions. Only thing that was information transaction. But those were used only by geeks because they knew some tools. And then came Mr. Tim Berners-Lee, who said that I'm going to make this protocol as a public good, what we call HTTP, and that changed internet. And in the early stages of information dissemination and sharing, it was a very democratic place. What it meant that anybody who wanted to publish some information on a website or a web portal, whatever we call, so they could develop a page using the standard protocol called HTTP. It didn't matter which web server, which cloud, where you posted anything. It didn't matter whether you had to go and register yourself to Chrome, Google or anything, because what you had to do was only to publish this, and then you are visible to the whole world. And what you offered, the quality of your offering, the specialization you're offering, made you either a success or a failure, or decided on the extent of traffic. Somebody said that I don't want to be billion visits. I want only few 100,000 of the very specialized category of people because that's on whom I am trying to serve. And I should be able to serve that in a feasible and profitable fashion. Somebody said I want to have a billion customers who will come in, so I should be able to do that and still be sustainable. But that's how we started. And but when it came to commerce, it took a different route. The whole world took a route of using walled gardens using proprietary technology in every domain. That's why you would see whether in e-commerce, like you see the numbers, the slightly old numbers are not too much different. If you look at something like more than 40% of the e-commerce is from 4 Chinese companies, and even if you look at in India, few of them dominate. It is not just about e-commerce and consumer products. The similar situation is there when it comes to food, when it comes to car hailing, taxi hailing, and all such domains. Because all of them work on the idea that they will have a proprietary technology platform and will try to attain a certain level of participation and transaction so that then they become unseatable. So at whatever cost, get a predominant position, and the network effect will make sure that nobody can come and unseat you. And that's the way the world moved. And what it means is that the concentration and resultant practices which are often not in the best interest of the industry in general, and especially small and micro enterprises in particular. And that is a challenge the whole world is struggling with, not just a developing country like India. It is the same challenge in US, it's the same challenge in Europe, it's the same challenge in China, it's the same challenge in India. And the Americans are trying to address it through regulation. They call America Innovation and Choice Online Act. They were hoping to get it passed. Unfortunately, they couldn't do it because of the extent of lobbying money that can go into delaying any such big changes. Similarly, the European Union is trying to bring Digital Market Access Act, essentially trying to address the issue of concentration and the resultant gatekeepers, as the narrative tells, and their practices. And the Chinese said, okay, I'll just take control and I'll tell people how to run the business. And India, we decided that we are going to use technology markets and enabling policies to change the rules of the game. Try to make digital commerce more a democratic place. Try to give the power to the producers and consumers and not in the intermediate somewhere in the middle. Try to give the brand manager to truly benefit from omni-channel commerce and not like today where the e-commerce is controlled by some other third entities which their humongous market power and their ability to hoard the information. So if you look at the left side of my slide, that is what represents the current way of doing things, where there are few large platforms and the sellers have to be in any of the platforms to be visible to the customers of that platform. And if they decide to be, if they want to expose themselves to the buyers in two platforms, they have to make all the technology, process, compliance, everything for those two platforms. So how are we trying to address this? Not by regulation, but by technology. What does the technology do? It does only two simple things: unbundling and interoperability. Unbundling is about unbundling the building blocks of transaction. For simplicity, I have only taken two building blocks, and as you will see in future, later, you can be many, many building blocks. One is seller interface and the other is the buyer interface. So that's the right side is a transformed open network that I am envisaging. What it means is that it will enable any producer of a product or service who has a catalog to publish that catalog in an open network using this ONDC protocol. It means that if I have published this catalog using through any platform which belong to a large service provider or my own small platform. Like I publish my website, if I'm just give a very, very small, loose simile. Then I am visible to the whole network. I don't have to go around trying to make myself visible, part of multiple network and changing the technology processes, everything. And the same, now that all the sellers are making their catalog visible in an open network, now the opportunity on the right side changed. Because the products are of different types, varieties, scales, service level standards, quality standards, specifications, pricing, everything could be different. It's like in the physical world. You have all varieties of product. And there are different kinds of buyers. Certain kind of buyers want to have certain kinds of product of certain category, certain SLA. So we need to help them. It's like saying that if in a hotel industry there could be 5-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star. Every providers are there. And you enable different kinds of customers come to based on their choice, their preference, generally or at that point in particular. So what we are going to see is innovation happening again on the buyer side, where different kind of enterprises will create buyer platform to help their clienteles to buy what they want. So if I go a little more specifically, I'll say there are many enterprises, large enterprises who have digital consumers. If I take you two extreme examples of innovation possibility on the buyer side. That could be somebody like a banker, somebody like a telco, who have large digital consumers today, not just for e-commerce, but for their services. If they want to now make the e-commerce available to their clients, they just can't do, because they can do only if they go and list all those product owners. If, let's say, a banker decided that they want to give additional service to their clients directly or through a strategic alliance, to help them buy tickets, to help them buy digital phones, to help them buy computers, to help them buy hotel accommodation, they have to go and either get all those service providers listed, and there has to be many, many only if the options are to be broad, or have to have some arrangement with specialized platform providing each of them. Because listing is not an easy proposition. Tomorrow, when all the catalogs are available using this open protocol, what becomes possible is that the buying platforms can now create an interface to help their buyers to buy what they want. That is the transformation we are talking about. So this is, so what you see on the right side is that, a seller on platform A could be visible to all the buyers in platform the right side. And that transformation, if I just go a little more specific into the solution architecture, what we today see is the rectangle is a black box of the platforms where buyer interface, seller interface, internal communication, everything is done using proprietary protocol. What ONDC is trying to do is to break this rectangle and make this component independent and leave it to the specialized agencies who can do it the best, and create a protocol that will help all of them to be stitched together without in any way the buyer or the seller suffering. Sometimes what happens, our mental models are so stuck up on platform giving integrated service for the past 10 years, we think that's the only way to do any business. But ask yourself, tell me any other business which is not doing in an unbundled fashion. Even the telco started by bundling everything together. And in the last few years, it has become so unbundled that Virgin Mobile today does only customer interface. And everything else is, through other service providers, outsourced. And they are able to give a stitched service and satisfy the customers and worry about their customer service and customer complaints and customer grievance and everything, because the digital connectivity and the whole protocol makes it possible. Take the case of, let's say, any car producer. Does he make their own tires? He doesn't. So it is all, we are all used to look at your own banking services. So many of your services are outsourced. And at the end of it, you stitch them together and make my experience seamless. I can log into my banking, the interface and buy my mutual fund. And if I have a problem or some clarification, my banking interface will seamlessly connect to the mutual fund provider and give me an answer. All these are possible, but why can't it be done in e-commerce? It can very much be done. And that is what we are demonstrating. And what ONDC is trying to create this, the network where it is possible. So ONDC is an enterprise established under the initiative of the Government of India to make it possible. And it has been established as a Section 8 private company to give it the agility and flexibility and no incentive to, make unusual profit, but act as a utility to make to help the industry to build on top of it unique innovative models of servicing the buyers, servicing the customers, servicing the sellers. When I say building block, it would be seller interface, buyer interface, catalog development, catalog as a service, logistics as a service, warehouse as a service, packaging as a service. All of them are components, building blocks of transaction. And the network enable all this possible. So when that becomes possible, it's not just in India, it can be even cross-border transaction. For example, and this is not about, and it can use the existing channels. If I just give one example, today there is ways anybody can export. Let's say somebody from Singapore make a call to a producer in India. There is a mechanism for him to export everything. He has to get a permission. He has to have a logistics provider. He has to find a logistics provider. He has to find somebody who will do the documentation. It adds a little complexity. But they are all existing. There are people who are doing. And what unfortunately is the way it is being done will sort of limits the opportunities to a large cross-section of enterprises because they don't have expertise in everything and they don't know how to build them together. But the beauty of an open network like this is that all the service providers are available to be asked for and received by any enterprise. So now this the network enables an international buyer to access a product from India and the service provider to look into the network and say, hey, who's going to give me the logistics service? It happens automatically. Who is going to give me the documentation? It happens automatically. How am I going to establish that I'm a I am a credible entity? Hey, DNB is giving me a DUNS number. DMA is giving me I'm just giving examples of names. It's a global name. So when I have a badge, which is based on my financial performance, as well as derived using the network-wide scoring provided by ONDC based on my performance in network, suddenly my credibility as a service provider or a product seller becomes very, very different. It gives a lot more confidence to the international buyer, and it gives a lot more market access to the domestic sellers. So we believe that these kind of changing business structure is not just B2C, it is not just consumer product, it could be financial product, it could be mobility, it could be food. Already the pilot runs both food and grocery and fashion and mobility, and we are in a fast-paced expansion of our scale of activity, and we believe it's like UPI 6 years ago. If you remember, in 2016 April, when FM inaugurated UPI, nobody in the world and many in India never believed it's going to make any difference. But today, in 6 years' time, it has made a substantial difference. We are like that. We are not yet officially inaugurated. We expect that in the next couple of months, we will be able to do a national dedication. But our beta test is going on. We have large enterprises like HUL and ITC have already become part of offering their products on the sell side. We have fintech companies and like Paytm and Spice Money already live, PhonePe going live, IDFC, a bank, is running their limited pilot for their users. I mean, you can access and you can buy from them. Only thing, they have not started making big noise about it. PhonePe will go live, Misho is there, Airtel is under integration. So practically, I can see a substantial amount of traction happening from big and small. In fact, very interestingly, without going to the specific of the name, like some of the, if you may ask, some of the large platforms in India, global platforms, are they already on? No. They are all taking public positions, but they may do it later. But one of the interesting idea, in fact, it happens without going to the names, is that one of the executives of one of the large global chain, which has large operation in India, contacted one of my colleagues and said, hey, I don't care what the Indian arm is doing, but I believe that there's an opportunity to use this network as a sourcing for my global operation. They say that while we don't have sales in China, but we are sourcing more than $100 million worth of stuff from China. Here we have sales in India, but probably there is a possibility. I'm not saying it would happen, it may happen. But it is giving ideas. Another large system integrator last day came from their global chief and told me, he said that he has only about 10% of business from India. But he says that many of the customers, the global brands are saying that check out what is happening in India, help us to establish there, and probably we can copy paste, because today globally we are really challenged by the extreme control of certain limited amount of participation in the digital commerce. So these are the kind of way of thinking. Like I said, we are attempting a moonshot. We are only talking about buying 10 hectares of land in Moon, but we definitely believe that the colony will be made. And I invite all of you as partners to join in different capacity as a seller side, buyer side, or encouraging such investment, or as investors asking your investees, what is your ONDC strategy? So with this, let me wind up. Thanks a lot. I think I've overstepped my time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So now next time when my son will ask me that, do you think there's a possibility that we'll be able to, have a house on the moon? He reads all this in papers. So now my answer will be definitely yes. That is a possibility and it's coming. With that, I would please like to invite Mr. Stanley Sear, co-head Asia Digital Channels and Data Analytics, to hand over the memento to Mr. Koshy, please.
Thank you.